Tyler Downey, Secretary Treasurer for SEIU Healthcare Canada. So a couple of things I want to point out that we did here in our union at SEIU, work that was led by our president, Charlene Stewart, who won in our 2015 convention. We revamped the look of our executive board. That was probably the biggest step for us. And two, really defining what becoming an anti-racist organization meant. And then obviously it's a journey that will continue on, but I think we've done the foundational parts of that work for the last number of years. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that we have a internal organizational equity and inclusion commission that meets regularly, that is made up of senior leaders of our union to continue to evolve the way in which we think about becoming an anti-racist organization, but also action in the things that we need to within our union. I think there's a lot of injustices that our members and workers generally across this province face every day by employers who would like to keep the status quo, who don't want to address racial inequalities that happen in the workplace, who are prejudicial, who are racist in their practices. And so I think putting a lens on bargaining and a focus on bargaining, I think is a path that we all should take. When I think about my experience, my recent experience within the long-term care bargaining that we just went through a few months ago, and I remember looking at the table, and it was one side of employers filled with white people making decisions for workers on the other side who were very diverse. There were Filipino members, there were Black members, and it was just a diverse, and you can see the contrast in the room. And so I think putting a focus on bargaining, but also holding the employers to account for their practices, their discriminatory practices that cause our members to feel like they're not welcome, that they're not included. And so having the Labor Council and the community services work together to develop a framework that can help locals really think about putting an emphasis on anti-racism work within bargaining is the right way to go. I think there's a lot of work that I know we need to do as a union, but I know also other unions need to do to begin to address the racism that exists within unions across this province and across this country. And it starts with groups like the Labor Community Services and Labor Councils to bring these issues up to the forefront. And as leaders, we just have to be open and honest about our own critique about our unions. And it's not a finger pointing exercise. It's an exercise of how do we be better? How do we do better? And how do we provide better for the workers that we represent? And so I think it's a great starting point. I think there's definitely a lot of work to do, but with these type of events and series, I think it lays out the foundation in a very nice way. And so I'm very excited that we're going to be a part of it, but also other unions are going to be participating in it. And it's not perfect work. There's not a perfect science to this. It's just about keeping the pressure on, keeping the awareness up, and keeping people engaged in the conversation. And it's a two-way conversation, and making sure that the space is created internally so that we can carry on the work for generations to come. And so that's what I think we can do internally. Outside of our union, just speaking with other leaders of other unions, I think is part of what I can do to ensure that as other union leaders wrestle with the idea of becoming an anti-racist union, there's going to be some tension. And helping them through that tension, I think, is something that we can help with. But I also feel like the Labor Community Services and the Labor Councils could play a role in that because not all unions are going to be open to this type of reform and this type of change. And so it's going to be a tough go for many, But I think as we can bond together and learn across unions and learn across jurisdictions, I think we can definitely make the change that we need to in the 22nd century. One thing I want to highlight is the mindset that has to be in place for union leaders to really do the work in a more effective way across unions. And it's the mindset of being open and being honest about the assessment of where you're at in the cycle of becoming an anti-racist organization. Because the work is extremely difficult. It's not work that you're going to get in one day. It's not work that you're going to get overnight. It's work that has to be ongoing, and there has to be a true commitment to doing the work and making sure that, one, people feel welcomed, but two, you're including people in a meaningful way, and you're including people across race lines, across cultural lines, across genders, to ensure that their voices really matter. Not tokenism, not interested in that. We've seen enough of that. We've got to move away from that to making sure that people in roles and positions feel like their voices are being heard, but they're also feeling like they are a true part of the union. And so I would just encourage all of the unions out there to keep an open mind, to be honest with themselves about where they're at. And if you're truly interested in being an anti-racist union, do the right steps to make sure that happens. But know that it's a long-term commitment. Know that you're going to be on a journey, and know that if you do the work really, really well, your union will become more powerful than it is today. And so that's the message I want to just leave with you as part of this journey to becoming anti-racist unions.